Hey, everybody, friends, Santa Fe. Alan Weber here from the mayor's office, wearing my mask, reminding you to wear your mask when you go out, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, practice good social and physical distancing. We are still dealing with COVID-19. We're still trying to bend the curve, stop the spread. I have some data. We've been all over the map. I think some of that is because testing is changing and some of the testing was closed because of Inauguration Day. But according to the numbers, yesterday, new Santa Fe County cases, 39. The day before that, 55, 28, 38, 50. We want those numbers to go down. We want to go from being a red county to a yellow and finally to a green county when it comes to the spread of COVID-19. We want to see our restaurants be able to serve people. We want to see our waiters, wait staff, hotel people get paid. We want our economy to gradually reopen in a safe way. And the way we do that is to wear a mask, practice good social distancing, use hand sanitizer, wash your hands, and most of all, sign up to get your vaccination. We know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We know that we're fighting against other strains, the UK strain and others that may be coming our way. So please be extra careful. We're very lucky to have with us today as a special guest star on our recurring talk show, Dr. Wendy Johnson, the Chief Medical Officer from La Familia. Dr. Johnson is a regular guest on these webcasts because she has a great deal of both professional expertise, obviously, but also she knows what's going on in Santa Fe and in different parts of our community as it relates to bending the curve and now getting good information about the vaccination process. There are a lot of interesting questions we're getting. How do I get my vaccination? When is it my turn? Where are they being dispensed? What's the difference between what's happening at a CVS versus the vaccinations at a hospital or the DOH, Department of Health, is doing at Santa Fe High? We're going to talk about that with Dr. Johnson and also get a little medical advice on when it is your turn and you do get your vaccination, what to expect, because there are indications that you've been vaccinated. You should be prepared for that information when it happens. The better prepared we all are with good information, good education, the more we can stop the spread and get safe. And then as we head to spring and the summer, we'll be lucky. We'll be feeling a lot more like COVID is in the rearview mirror, I hope. So with that, Dr. Wendy Johnson, it is great to see you as always. You are
very nice to be here.
You're our own Dr. Fauci when it comes to straight talk and easily understood non-jargon descriptions of what's going on. So let's talk about vaccinations. I think we're all eager to learn more about what we can do to help, how much we're getting in the way of doses here in Santa Fe and northern New Mexico, what to expect perhaps from the Biden administration as they take over and hopefully roll things out more smoothly and with more doses, period. Because I believe I'm right when I say that right now demand for doses is outstripping supply of doses. But why don't you give us a briefing on how the doses come, when we learn, who they go to, how they get distributed. If I'm interested in getting on the list, what do I do? All the basic information about vaccinations. Take it over.
Sure. So up until now, the Department of Health and all the Department of Healths, across the country, departments of health are dependent on the federal government supply, okay? And the first priorities, we all know, were healthcare workers and people who live in nursing homes and congregate care facilities. So there was a federal partnership with the pharmacies to handle the nursing homes. And I think that's getting completed. I don't know what % that is done in New Mexico or even in Santa Fe. I know as of the last week or so, they were still rolling those out to nursing homes. So it's not 100% completed, probably for first doses. And it's all taking a lot longer than any of us would like, because the supply chain is really unpredictable. And that has nothing to do with the Department of Health. It has nothing to do with the hospitals or healthcare providers in Santa Fe. It's really a function of the federal government's lack of planning up until this point, okay? And now we're all holding our breath and waiting to see if the Biden administration, how quick, I am 100% confident that the Biden administration will turn it around. The question is, how fast can they turn it around? How fast is it possible for them to ramp up production? And a lot of this is going to have to do with better planning, really, as much as it is with those other things like ramping up production and those kinds of things. A more comprehensive and consistent message from the CDC and the actual Dr. Fauci and some of the folks that are running this effort. And those people have had their hands tied up to this point. And so I think now that they're really allowed to be in the driver's seat, and that, Biden and his top administration folks are listening to them, I think we're going to see some change. But I can't predict how fast it will be. It can't be fast enough for those of us who are kind of just waiting and waiting. So that's been the biggest problem. I think the other problem is that this is really a Herculean task, okay? I don't think it should be minimized how difficult it's been. And in the context of that, I think New Mexico has done really well. The Department of Health had and has a registration system. So the number one thing that everyone should do who wants the vaccine is to go on that Department of Health website. You can just Google New Mexico Department of Health. I think if, or we can find it and put it on the post of the Facebook page, the link, but it's a simple thing to find. It's a simple registration to do. And I know for our patients, we're also helping them do the registration. It used to be that you needed to have an email. Now, if you don't have an email, as long as you have an email or a phone number, either one, you can sign up. There's a phone number at the Department of Health I think you can call, and they will help you sign up. So almost everybody should be able to sign up now on the Department of Health registration site. It is a huge task here, and it did take a little bit to work out the kinks of that app that they have, but I think it's working pretty well now. So please, everybody, go in. If you've already gone in and haven't heard anything from the Department of Health, go back in and make sure you're registered. For some people who registered very early, they didn't have all the questions yet filled out. So you might have to go back in and fill out some of the questions about if you have chronic disease or if you're an essential worker or things like that. So Department of Health website is thing number one. And again, I just want to say, we have, compared to other states, we've actually vaccinated a good number of our population. We have the Department of Health pushing the vaccine out through pharmacies, through hospitals, through federally qualified health centers, which is like La Familia, community clinics, and doing their own vaccination clinics. The last time I looked, I think, I don't remember the number we were doing a day. I want to say 3,000 a day, maybe. And it could be more than that, because that was a few days ago, maybe Monday, that I last looked at that. So, and that's a great number for New Mexico, especially given how rural our state is and how difficult the access to the internet and, and even phones and things like that, to a website like that, how difficult that is in New Mexico. So I think we're doing well. I think the biggest two things that are tripping us up again are, we don't know, like at La Familia, I'll just talk about our experience. And again, I just want to really emphasize, this is because of the federal government, really not because of the Department of Health. We don't know from one week to the next how many vaccines we're getting, okay? I think that's going to get a lot better very quickly. But for the past, 3-4 weeks, we got 300, then we got nothing, then we got nothing, then we got 100, then we got, 400. And we were even concerned. We gave 300 to healthcare workers, our own staff and other healthcare workers in the community. And we were concerned, will we get the second doses? And we did get the second doses, so that was good. And I know that's the thing, I'm getting a lot of calls from patients and other people because the Department of Health hasn't given a lot of people their second dose appointment yet. And I know a lot of people are very concerned about that. And from their perspective, they're also waiting to see the supply. So they don't want to give you an appointment if they're not sure they're going to have the supply to give you the vaccine. So for all those people that are concerned about their second dose appointment, I would say to you, I'm sure you will get a second dose. I'm 100% sure you'll get a second dose. If you get a second dose a few days or even a week or even 2 weeks late, it's really not a big deal. Okay, it will still be very, very effective. Okay, so don't sweat it if you don't know your second dose appointment yet. Don't sweat it if you end up getting a second dose a few days late. It'll be okay. All right, I think as soon as we get these supply chain issues worked out, everyone's going to get their appointments. So try not to get too anxiety provoked over that. I know a lot of people really are because I'm getting a lot of calls on that too. So the one thing is the supply chain. And the other thing I think is there was a lot of confusion around the different groups and am I in the group or am I not in the group? And when are they going to call my group? And I'm over 75 and I still haven't gotten called. And why is that? And certainly there were a lot of articles in the New Mexican today about a lot of missteps that happened for different reasons. And people who may have gotten vaccinated who were not in the right group. And I would just say, again, this is a Herculean task and we're trying as best we can to triage. We have this huge funnel. I think of it as a huge funnel, you know, there's a huge amount of demand and there's a tiny little bit of supply. And those of us who are trying to distribute it are trying our best to make sure the people who are getting through the funnel are the highest need, but it's really difficult. And then there's another complication, which is that these vaccines come in packages of, 5 or 6 for Pfizer, 10 or 11 for Moderna. And once you open the vial, you need to use all of them. So if somebody signs up for an appointment and they don't show up, and at the end of the day, we have a vial that, for Moderna, say that we have used 2 doses, those other 8 or 9 doses are going to go bad if we don't find somebody right away, okay? So that's another thing that's kind of, is very, very, I can't even express how complicated this is, this whole operation. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's the whole piece about the cold chain and all the things we need to do logistically to assure that. We're hearing news about. So I think given all the complications and all the difficulty, I actually think we're doing a great job. And I have a lot of hope that in the next week or 2, things are going to significantly shift. We might see a clearer categorization of groups. We might see, Biden's already kind of said that he wants to open it up a little bit more. But opening it up is also going to depend on having a more steady supply, okay? It's hard to open it up. And we have a very, very tight eye on equity at La Familia. So we are really trying to get, of our own population, for example, we prioritize those people who couldn't get on the Department of Health site because they didn't have an email, or maybe they're visually impaired, or maybe they don't even have a computer. So we looked at our patient population and we looked at our over 75 population who may have other disabilities or may not have an email. And we intentionally called those folks up and tried to get them in for our limited vaccines for that group. So we're trying to focus on our most vulnerable population first. And I think that's the Department of Health's goal as well.
I think you've really given some good advice. Get registered if you're not registered. If you thought you registered but you haven't heard, go back and do it again. There's no, make sure that everything worked with the technology, especially because they had some early fixes they had to make. And there is a phone number, I believe, on the DOH website where if you have a question or you think you may have been skipped, or I thought I was in line because I'm in that higher priority group, but my phone didn't ring, it's okay to ask a question and see if you can get more information. We're dealing with a lot of different, like you said, a lot of different moving parts. There's the supply of vaccine, there's the distribution of the vaccine, there's the fact that, as you said, that once you open up that kit, you've got something like 6 hours to get it into people's arms. And we all know that it's not about vaccines, it's about vaccinations. It doesn't do any good to have a vial if it doesn't go in somebody's arm. So it's better to get it into somebody's arm than into nobody's arm and have it go bad. There's also a question that people have raised about some of the medical experiences associated with being vaccinated. I think, again, information, education, and answering questions is just as important for public knowledge, public awareness, as it is to have the vaccine and get it into people's arms. So why don't you give us a little bit of what we've learned from the vaccinations that have happened so far in terms of how people are reacting, so there are fewer surprises when it's my turn or somebody else's. I haven't been, it's not, my phone hasn't rung yet either, so I'm waiting my turn. But when my turn comes, I'd like to know what to expect.
Yeah, I got my second dose this week, and it was kind of a doozy. You know, I'm definitely, well, I worked in Africa for a while, so I've gotten a lot of vaccines in my life, you know, more so than the average person, being a healthcare worker and also having worked in Africa and lived in Africa for a bit. So, and I think it was, you know, pretty powerful reaction, but I think people need to remember, first of all, be prepared for it. If you can take the day off after you get vaccinated, just as a precaution, probably a good idea. You know, second dose is generally more prevalent symptoms than the first dose. Older people actually have fewer severe symptoms than younger people, probably has to do with how robust your immune system is. But, you know, anyone can have any of these symptoms. In the preliminary trials, over 50% of people get, well, almost, first of all, almost over 90% of people get pain and soreness at the injection site. And you can get a little swelling or a little redness. But it can be kind of significant. You know, I couldn't really raise my arm all the way up the first day. So it can be very significant, but that's normal. And like I said, all of these things go away in 24 to 48 hours. The other things that are super common are headaches, nausea, dizziness, body aches, fever, chills. Basically feel like you have a bad case of the flu. And it's just good to remember you don't have the flu. I mean, this is similar to what people say when they get the flu shot. They say, I don't get the flu shot because it gives me the flu. It does not give you the flu. It's not logically possible for the flu shot to give you the flu. It just doesn't happen. But it does give you this syndrome. And again, very time limited, 24 to 48 hours, that makes you feel like you have the flu. And that's your immune system reacting and doing its thing. So while you're feeling that, just remember that is a good price to pay to prevent getting in the hospital in a ventilator. You know, I'd rather just feel a little run down for a day or two than, you know, not be able to breathe or, you know, have problems with my heart for 6 months or a year, you know, which is all the things that COVID can do to people. So
also, you're not only doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your family and people in your circle, because if you're vaccinated and you get a little flu-like symptoms for a day or two, okay, we can handle that. But if you have grandma or grandpa in your house and you accidentally bring home COVID, that's a much higher price to pay than a little bit of a flu-like symptom for a day or two. So don't just do it for yourself, do it for your family and the people you love and care about. We need to get to the point where all across Santa Fe, the vaccinations are taking hold and we're all able to be safer for each other as well as for our own well-being.
Yes, absolutely. This is what I've been saying. I said this in an op-ed in the New Mexican a few days ago. we have two paths to get out of this, all right? One path is we step up and get the vaccine. And absolutely, you're not doing it, I mean, you're doing it partly for yourself, for sure, but you're also doing it for all your family, your loved ones, and all the elders in our community, and all, you know, all the vulnerable people in our community. And maybe not, you know, we can't predict who's going to get sick and die and who's not. Certainly older people are more likely, but you know, there have been very, very young people with no health problems that have just gotten very unlucky and gotten sick and died. So we can't predict. So you're protecting your family, your loved ones, your friends, your whole community. And again, especially our elders, which we should be very protective of our elders. You know, that's our cultural memory, that's our heritage. So important. So do it for, you're a hero. You're saving lives if you get this vaccine. So that's one path. We all get vaccinated as quickly as possible. We get to this thing called herd immunity, where basically it's not possible to transmit the disease between people. Our cases drop dramatically, and we can go back to normal. The other path to going back to normal is that we all get COVID, or enough of us get COVID, so we get immunity that way. One of these two paths, these are the only paths, okay? Or the third path, I guess, is we stay on quarantine and lockdown forever, which nobody wants. So the other path, which also nobody wants, is that we all get sick and a very large number of us die, especially our elders. So none of us wants that either. So please, if you have questions about the vaccine, if you're not sure, if you've heard things that are concerning, if you think you might not be able to take it because of some health issue you have, really there's very few health issues that are contraindications to getting the vaccine. And I would say if you have questions, call up and ask your primary care provider. And they'll be able to answer them for you. Seek out information on good sources like the CDC website, like the Moderna and Pfizer have patient information there. So go to a trusted health professional and ask them those questions.
Thank you. So appreciate your being here today, Dr. Johnson. We'll have you back again. You're gonna be our regular guest, medical advice guest star. We can't get Dr. Fauci, but we do, even better, have our own local Dr. Johnson. So very grateful to you. Thank you for what you're doing at La Familia. Thank you for what you're doing in our whole community. And thank you for being with Santa Fe today to just talk through the vaccination situation. And as we get more questions, we do every day get people sending email or calling the mayor's office. We'll get you back to answer some more questions. We'll have an Ask Dr. Johnson feature on our webcast. So thanks a lot. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, take care. Let me go on to a couple of other items. I know there's more things going on than COVID, although COVID is a big deal. Continues to be the thing that changes all of our lives. Saturday, January 23rd, Vital Spaces announces Community Art Closet, free art supplies for all skill and age ranges. Southwest Annex at the Midtown Campus, 1600 St. Michael's Drive, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Every third Saturday of the month. Community Art Closet, free art supplies for all skill and age ranges. It's a great community service brought by Vital Spaces. Food Depot, distribution, Santa Fe Place Mall, January 23, 8 to 10 a.m. We really appreciate, that's January 23. On January 28th, 7 to 9, Food Depot food distribution at 1222 Siler Road. Thank you again, as always, to our friends at the Santa Fe Place Mall for making that available. It is very convenient for a drive-in, drive-out, located in a place where we can all get if we need help, if we need food. We should not allow people in Santa Fe to go hungry. Now, we've got a lot of health needs. We've got a lot of financial needs with restaurants and hotels and tourism down. Folks are looking for help. Food Depot continues to step up and provide healthy meals for Santa Fe. Thank you, Sherry and your team, and to the Santa Fe Place Mall. quickly, before we run out of time, I want to do a quick briefing about the special meeting of the governing body last night. We had an executive session, no votes, no secret information, just a chance for the members of the city council to talk about a letter we received from the master developer with whom we had an agreement to look at the Midtown property. 9 months ago, something like that, we signed an agreement with the master developer and their team for them to do an assessment of the development opportunity at the Midtown site. It was an exclusive arrangement. They were the only group we could talk to, and they went to work doing an assessment of how that land could be developed, what the needs were in order to make it ready for development, what the opportunities were, where there were some liabilities, where there were some investments that would need to be made. Of course, between the time that we came to an agreement with that developer and now, COVID-19, which we were just talking about with Dr. Johnson, COVID struck and turned much of the world upside down. It became a global pandemic with millions of people getting sick and unfortunately hundreds of thousands of Americans losing their lives. But it also had economic and social impacts. One of the things that it's done is to change how all of us work. A great deal of people are working remotely rather than going into offices, closed down many of our most favorite restaurants, at least for indoor dining, put a damper on the hotel and motel industry, on all of our entertainment opportunities. We canceled so many different summer activities this year. And as the developer looked at the impact of COVID on economic opportunities for building on that site, and at the changes in our overall national economy, as well as the need to invest very significant sums of money to upgrade the infrastructure, to do more extensive engineering, more detailed land use planning, more community and neighborhood engagement. The more they looked at those different factors that go into developing a site as complex and large as that 65 plus acre site, the more they came to the conclusion that it was not something they could do financially and economically. They have financial backers who have invested money in their businesses. They have their own workforce they're responsible to. They looked at the cost of going forward versus the opportunity and the risks and came to the conclusion that we should mutually agree to part company. That provision was in the agreement that we had with the developer, that either side or both sides mutually could come to the conclusion that moving forward for them to buy the site and develop it was not going to happen. So we got that letter from them advising us that they wanted a mutual termination of our working relationship, also telling us that they thought there was a lot of opportunity still on the site, particularly in areas like the Garson Studios and the opportunity for a media presence, digital technology. The world around digital entertainment has grown astronomically at the same time that things like office space has declined. So they looked at it very much as a private sector developer should, which is what's the reality of that location, the opportunity to make a financial return that meets up with the risk, and concluded that that was not something they could continue. We accepted that letter, and the council and I went over it last night. At the same time, I can tell you that we continue to have a lot of interest on the Midtown campus. Many of the local partners with that developer have expressed an interest in continuing to work with the city in some capacity to do good things on the Midtown campus. And we continue to look to the state legislature to help give us money to provide infrastructure investment to upgrade, improve, and modernize the infrastructure on the campus. It was let go for a long time, simply left in the way it was. And as years have gone by, the infrastructure has begun to take some serious hits. So there needs to be more investment in upgrading the quality of the infrastructure. We'll need to look at roads and energy and a whole bunch of infrastructure issues, stormwater, drainage. All of that makes a site more valuable when you make those improvements. Right now, there are 7 different working groups of city managers and employees answering serious questions about the Midtown site. Should we refinance the Midtown site and try to save some money? Should we change the circulation and add roads into and out of Midtown? What about the infrastructure? What about the zoning? What about community engagement? How do we double down on listening to the voice of the people in the neighborhoods around Midtown and across our city? That continues to be a site with enormous potential. It is the geographic center of Santa Fe. It has a lot of history and importance to people who went to school there in the old days when it was the College of Santa Fe, people who attended Laureate, people who want to go to school there in the future. So a lot of possibilities that remain alive and well on that site, including the Garson Studios, including the possibility of affordable housing being built there. But we need to do more research. We're really grateful to the private developer. They put hundreds of thousands of dollars of their own money into this period of research, of doing due diligence, it's called, where you examine in more detail what the reality of investment and development would be. And we are the beneficiaries of all of that investment. They put money in there, they learned a lot, and they are sharing that knowledge with us. We'll share that knowledge with the community so that everybody in Santa Fe knows both the pluses and the minuses about the Midtown site. Probably in the last part of February, these very hardworking task forces will come up with their recommendations about how best to move forward at the Midtown site, how quickly or slowly to move forward. Some of it may depend on what we were just talking about with Dr. Johnson, and that is how quickly can we get vaccinations in everybody's arms so that we become a much more COVID immune community and we're able to bend the curve, stop the spread, and look forward to a spring and a summer and then a fall of a return to health and a sense that we are looking at COVID-19 in the rearview mirror, because COVID has affected all of us in so many different ways. It certainly has changed the dynamic, the economics, the cost structure of the campus at Midtown. There will be an item on the council agenda on Wednesday of next week for the regular council meeting to talk some more about Midtown and to listen to more information about what the developer learned and to share that with you and with the community at large so everybody knows exactly what this time of investigation has unearthed. I can tell you I've heard from local people, local business people, local investors, local developers who are still deeply interested and deeply committed to making good things happen at the Midtown site. So the process of working with this developer during this exclusive period has done what it was supposed to do. They took a hard look at it. We worked with them to answer their questions and explore ways to move forward. I think their conclusion is there's too much uncertainty in the wake of COVID-19. There's too many economic changes that have gone on with office space, with hospitality and tourism, to make it worth their while to invest more money into this unknown and more uncertain economic climate that we're all living with. So that's a quick update on the meeting that we had last night. It will continue to be a topic of discussion and more information sharing as we go forward. Please feel free to send me an email, mayor@santafenm.gov, if you have a question about the Midtown site or about vaccinations, and we'll try to get more answers for you going forward. Until I see you next week, please stay safe. Please remember we have to bend the curve, wear a mask, wash your hands. Please practice physical distancing. Stay safe. Keep your family safe. Keep our community safe. Get in line for a vaccination. Ultimately, that will get us where we need to go. Until I see you next week, take care. Take care of your family. Take care of our community. All together, we'll work to take care of Santa Fe. Stay healthy. Stay well. See you next week.